Transparency is the foundation of accountability. In this segment, you will see unfiltered and unedited reality. We are presenting raw, primary footage directly from the front lines of justice, offering you an objective window into the complexities of the law.
Staff Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. Isn't that obvious? The problem is this car doesn't match someone like you. Someone like me? I don't care if you served on the moon. Step out of the vehicle. I'm searching this car. I fought for this country. Bled for it. And you're gonna...
Kyle Brixton had lasted 3 weeks in Marine Corps boot camp before washing out. Couldn't handle the discipline. Couldn't handle being told what to do by drill instructors who demanded excellence. Couldn't handle the standards that separated Marines from everyone else. 16 weeks later, he was wearing a police badge, pulling over a black man in a BMW, and facing the exact kind of Marine who had broken him. A senior drill instructor with a Bronze Star, a Purple Heart, and 13 years of distinguished service. Staff Sergeant Darnell Washington had just served as pallbearer at a military funeral. He was wearing his dress blues. His medals were visible through the window. None of it mattered to an officer who had spent 16 weeks targeting black drivers and texting friends about teaching jarheads their place. Brixton threw a fallen Marine's memorial flag on the ground during his search. A retired sergeant major arrived as backup and ordered him to surrender his badge on the spot. 9 years federal prison. 3 weeks of boot camp couldn't make him a Marine. 16 weeks with a badge made him a felon. Arlington National Cemetery stretched across 639 acres of hallowed ground. Row upon row of white headstones. The final rest of those who had given everything. Corporal James "Jimmy" Reeves was laid to rest on a Wednesday afternoon. Full military honors. The Marine Corps Silent Drill Platoon. A 21-gun salute that echoed across the hills. Taps played by a lone bugler, the notes hanging in the cold December air. Staff Sergeant Darnell Washington stood at attention as one of 6 pallbearers. His dress blues were immaculate, ribbons stacked across his chest, medals gleaming in the winter sun. Bronze Star with Valor, Purple Heart, Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal, Combat Action Ribbon. 13 years of service displayed for the world to see. He had trained Jimmy Reeves, watched a nervous recruit from Ohio become a warrior, pushed him through the crucible, through the pain, through every moment that separated Marines from civilians. Jimmy had become one of the best. Then Afghanistan took him. IED, Helmand Province, the same region where Washington had earned his Bronze Star, where he had carried 2 wounded Marines to safety under enemy fire, where shrapnel had torn into his left shoulder and earned him the Purple Heart. The flag was folded with precision, 13 folds, each with meaning. It was presented to Jimmy's mother, a woman from Cleveland who had raised her son alone, who had watched him become something greater than either of them had imagined. Washington was tasked with delivering a second flag to her home after the service. A personal request from the family. A final honor. He placed the folded triangle on the passenger seat of his BMW X6 and began the drive home. His wife Keisha was expecting him for dinner. His 6-year-old son Darnell Jr. was waiting to see Daddy. The shortcut through Willow Creek saved 20 minutes. An affluent neighborhood he had never driven through. Large homes, manicured lawns, tree-lined streets. The kind of place he could afford now, after 13 years of service, after saving every deployment bonus, after building the life his childhood in Baltimore had never promised. He had grown up in poverty, enlisted at 18 to escape, to build something better. First in his family, to own a home. The BMW was his reward. Years of sacrifice made tangible. The patrol car appeared in his rearview mirror at 4:43 p.m. Washington noticed immediately. 13 years of situational awareness. The cruiser had been parked on a side street, pulled out when he passed, followed at distance for 3 blocks. He checked his speed. 32 in a 35 zone. He verified his turn signal. Everything in order. The lights activated anyway. Washington pulled to the curb with the discipline of a man who had survived 3 combat deployments. He lowered his window fully. He placed both hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. Visible. Controlled. Exactly as he trained his recruits to handle high-stress situations. The officer who approached was young. White. Mid-20s. Uniform crisp. Badge number visible. 8847. His hand was already on his belt. The Axon Body 2 on Brixton's chest activated as he approached. Timestamp. 16 hours, 47 minutes, and 33 seconds. The lens captured Washington through the fully lowered window, dress blues filling the frame, ribbons and medals displayed across his chest, bronze star gleaming in the afternoon light. License and registration. Washington's hands remained on the steering wheel. His voice was measured. Calm. May I ask why I'm being stopped, officer? Failure to signal back there. License and registration. I signaled. Every turn. I didn't see it. License and registration. Washington reached slowly toward his jacket pocket, keeping his movements visible. He produced his military ID first, standard practice for service members, then his driver's license. Brixton took the documents. His eyes moved from the ID to Washington's face, then to the BMW's interior, then back to Washington. You want to tell me how you can afford a car like this? The question landed in the afternoon air. The Bodycam recorded it with perfect clarity. I'm a staff sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. Washington's voice remained level. Isn't that obvious? He gestured toward his uniform. The dress blues that announced exactly who he was. The ribbons that documented 13 years of service. The medals that represented combat, valor, sacrifice. Brixton's expression didn't change. Registration. Washington reached toward the glove compartment, slowly, deliberately, hands visible at all times. He produced the registration. His name. His address. The BMW's VIN matching the plates. Brixton examined the documents. Everything matched. Everything confirmed exactly what Washington had told him. He handed the documents back. Then he stepped away from the window and began circling the vehicle. The Bodycam captured his movement, around the front bumper, along the passenger's side, examining the BMW, as if searching for something that would justify what he had already decided. The problem is this car doesn't match someone like you. Washington's jaw tightened. The Bodycam captured the micro-expression, controlled anger held in check by years of discipline. Someone like me? Yeah, someone like you. What does that mean exactly? Brixton completed his circuit and returned to the driver's window. His posture had shifted, weight forward, hand near his belt. It means I've seen this before. Nice cars in neighborhoods like this, driven by people who can't explain where the money came from. I can explain exactly where the money came from. 13 years of military service. 3 combat deployments. Hazard pay. Deployment bonuses. Saving instead of spending. That's what they all say. They all say they're staff sergeants with bronze stars. I don't know what those ribbons mean. Could be fake. Washington looked at Brixton with an expression that had made recruits reconsider their life choices. The stare of a senior drill instructor who had shaped 1,500 Marines. These ribbons represent combat, tours you couldn't imagine. This medal, he touched the Bronze Star, was awarded for carrying 2 wounded Marines to safety under enemy fire while bleeding from shrapnel wounds. This uniform represents 13 years of service to a country that's supposed to treat its veterans better than this. Step out of the vehicle. On what grounds? I'm conducting an investigation. Into what? A Marine driving home from a funeral? Into how someone like you affords a car like this in a neighborhood like this. Washington's phone sat in the center console. Without taking his eyes off Brixton, he pressed a contact on the screen. Keisha answered on the second ring. Hey baby, you close? I've been pulled over. Willow Creek. I need you to listen to everything and don't hang up. A neighbor had emerged onto his porch across the street. Phone in hand. Recording. Put the phone down. Washington kept it in the center console, speaker active, Keisha listening to every word. My wife is on the line. She's documenting this encounter. I don't care who's on the line. Put it down. The phone stays where it is. What's your probable cause for detaining me? Your attitude is my probable cause. That's not how the Fourth Amendment works. Brixton's face flushed. The Bodycam captured it, the same reaction that had preceded every escalation documented in his short career. Step out of the vehicle. I'm searching this car. I don't consent to a search. I don't need your consent if I have reasonable suspicion. Reasonable suspicion of what? I'm a Marine in dress blues driving home from a military funeral. What exactly raises your suspicion? Brixton leaned closer to the window. His voice dropped, the tone of someone who believed he held all the power. I don't care if you served on the moon. Step out of the vehicle. I'm searching this car. Washington's response carried the weight of everything he had endured. Combat. Deployment. Carrying wounded brothers through enemy fire. The funeral he had just attended. I've fought for this country. Bled for it. And you're gonna disrespect my uniform over a traffic stop? Last warning. That flag on my passenger seat is for a Marine's mother. A Marine I trained. A Marine who died serving the country you claim to protect. You want to search around that? Brixton keyed his radio. The Bodycam recorded the transmission. Dispatch, this is Unit 47. I've got a hostile driver refusing to cooperate with a lawful search. Requesting backup at my location. Washington heard every word. So did Keisha on the phone. So did the neighbor on the porch, still recording. Hostile. Washington's voice remained controlled, but the anger beneath it was unmistakable. I've answered every question. I've provided every document. I've explained exactly who I am and where I came from. What's hostile about that? Your attitude. My attitude is disciplined. My attitude is what kept me alive in Helmand Province. My attitude is what trains Marines to serve with honor. If that seems hostile to you, the problem isn't me. Brixton drew his weapon. The Glock cleared the holster and leveled at Washington's chest. The Bodycam captured the draw, smooth, practiced, the motion of someone who had made this decision before the encounter began. Step out of the vehicle. Now. You're pointing a weapon at a decorated combat veteran. I'm pointing a weapon at someone who won't follow lawful commands. There's nothing lawful about this stop. Nothing lawful about your questions. Nothing lawful about the search you're trying to conduct without probable cause. Out. Now. Washington looked at the weapon. At the officer holding it. At the neighbor still recording from the porch. At the Bodycam that would document whatever came next. I'm going to step out. Slowly. My hands will be visible at all times. I have no weapons. I am complying under duress with what I believe to be an unlawful order, and I'm stating that clearly for the record. He opened the door. He stepped out with the measured movements of a man who had faced worse than this. His dress blues caught the afternoon light. Every ribbon, every medal, every symbol of sacrifice visible to the camera and the neighbor and anyone who would later watch this footage. He stood beside his own vehicle, hands raised, Bronze Star gleaming on his chest. Hands on the car. Washington complied. What happened next would be watched by millions. Brixton closed the distance in 2 aggressive strides. His hand grabbed Washington's shoulder and slammed him against the BMW. The impact drove Washington's chest into the metal. His metal scraped against the door, the Bronze Star leaving a mark on the paint. Spread your legs. Washington complied. He had been searched before, in combat zones, in tactical situations, by allies and adversaries alike. He knew what compliance looked like. He knew how to survive. I'm a staff sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. I have no weapons. I'm fully complying with your orders. Shut up. Brixton's hands moved across Washington's body. Aggressive. Unnecessary. The pat-down of someone searching for a justification rather than contraband. He found nothing. I just came from a funeral. A Marine's funeral. Is this how you treat veterans? I treat everyone the same. No, you don't. You saw a black man in a nice car and decided that was enough. I said shut up. Brixton turned to the BMW. He opened the driver's door. He began tearing through the interior, console, glove compartment, under the seats. Searching for drugs that didn't exist. Searching for contraband that had never been there. His hand found the folded American flag on the passenger seat. 13 folds. Perfect triangle. The same flag that had covered Corporal James Reeves' casket 3 hours earlier. Brixton picked it up. He examined it briefly. Then he tossed it aside. The flag landed on the ground. In the dirt. On the shoulder of a suburban street in Willow Creek, Virginia. Washington saw it fall. His body went rigid, not from fear, but from something deeper. The rage of a man who had watched brothers die, who had carried that flag in honor, who understood what it represented. That flag was for his mother. His voice cracked. 13 years of discipline. 3 combat deployments. Carrying wounded Marines under fire. Nothing had broken him like watching that flag hit the dirt. Pick it up. Brixton continued searching the vehicle. He didn't respond. I said pick it up. It's evidence. Evidence of what? It's a memorial flag. It was given to me at Arlington National Cemetery 3 hours ago. It belongs to the mother of a Marine who died serving this country. Keisha's voice came through the phone still active in the center console. Crying. Darnell? Baby, what's happening? They threw Jimmy's flag on the ground. Oh my God. Oh my God. The neighbor on the porch had moved closer, still recording. His phone captured what the Bodycam might miss. The angle of the flag in the dirt, The Marine in dress blues pressed against his car, the officer tearing through the vehicle. Brixton found nothing. No drugs. No weapons. No contraband of any kind. He emerged from the BMW empty-handed. You can go. Pick up the flag first. What? Pick up the flag. It's on the ground. You pick it up. You threw it there. You pick it up. Blue lights appeared at the end of the street. Backup arriving. Washington remained against his vehicle, hands still raised, watching the patrol car approach. The door opened. A man stepped out. Older, white. The bearing of someone who had worn a uniform long before he wore a badge. He saw the dress blues first, then the medals, then the flag on the ground. His face changed. Brixton. The voice carried command. Stand down. The supervisor approached at a jog. His eyes moved across Washington's ribbons, recognizing each one, understanding what they meant. He stopped 3 feet away. He straightened, and he saluted. Staff Sergeant, I am so sorry. The supervisor held his salute. Washington, still pressed against his vehicle, couldn't return it. I served 24 years in the Corps. Sergeant Major Thomas O'Brien. Retired. Then you know what that flag means. O'Brien looked at the folded triangle lying in the dirt. His expression shifted from shock to fury. Brixton, did you do that? Sir, I was conducting a search. Did you throw that flag on the ground? Silence. Answer me. It was on the passenger seat. I moved it. You threw an American flag, a memorial flag, on the ground during a traffic stop? O'Brien walked to where the flag lay. He bent down. He picked it up with both hands, brushing off the dirt with reverence, the respect of someone who had carried flags like this himself. He brought it to Washington. Staff Sergeant, this belongs to you. Washington took the flag. He held it against his chest, the same way he had held it at Arlington, the same way he would hold it when he delivered it to Jimmy's mother. Who was it for? Corporal James Reeves. I trained him. He was killed in Afghanistan. O'Brien closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they were fixed on Brixton. You just assaulted a decorated combat veteran. You disgraced that uniform. He pointed to Washington's dress blues in this department. You desecrated a memorial flag for a fallen Marine. Sir, he was being hostile. I heard the Bodycam audio. I was monitoring the channel. He was being cooperative. He was being accurate. You were being everything a police officer should never be. O'Brien extended his hand. Your badge. Your weapon. Now. You can't. I can. I am. You're relieved of duty effective immediately, pending investigation. Hand them over. Brixton stood frozen. 16 weeks of wearing a badge, ending on a suburban street while a staff sergeant clutched a memorial flag to his chest. He unclipped his badge. He surrendered his weapon. O'Brien took them without ceremony. Go sit in my vehicle. Do not speak. Do not move. Do not touch anything. Brixton walked away. His patrol car sat behind him. Bodycam footage already uploaded. Evidence already preserved. O'Brien turned back to Washington. Staff Sergeant, I need to document your injuries. I need to preserve this scene. And I need to make phone calls that are going to end that man's career. My wife is on the phone. She heard everything. Good. She's a witness. Washington looked at the flag in his hands, at the dirt still visible on the white fabric. He threw it like it was garbage. I know. That flag covered a Marine's casket this morning. A Marine who gave everything. I know. And he threw it in the dirt. O'Brien placed his hand on Washington's shoulder, the gesture of one veteran to another. We're going to make this right. FBI. Federal charges. Everything by the book. That officer is going to pay for what he did, not just to you, but to Corporal Reeves, to his mother, to everyone who served. Washington's wife was still on the phone, crying. Darnell? Baby? Are you okay? I'm okay. It's over. What happened to the flag? Washington looked at the folded triangle in his hands. The dirt was brushed away. The fabric was intact. I'm bringing it home. Then I'm bringing it to Jimmy's mom. The neighbor approached slowly, phone still recording. I got everything. From my porch. Whatever you need. O'Brien nodded. We're going to need all of it. The Bodycam footage was in FBI hands within 24 hours. The neighbor's phone video provided a second angle, capturing what the chest-mounted camera might have missed, including the moment Brixton threw the flag. Both recordings went viral within days. 80 million views across platforms. The image of a Marine in dress blues pressed against his own vehicle, a memorial flag in the dirt, became the defining visual of veteran discrimination for an entire year. But the footage only told part of the story. The investigation would reveal the rest. Officer Kyle Brixton had applied to the Marine Corps at age 18. He had lasted 3 weeks in boot camp before washing out. Failure to adapt was the official designation. He couldn't handle the discipline. Couldn't handle drill instructors demanding excellence. Couldn't handle being told that his best wasn't good enough. The resentment had calcified over 6 years. It showed in his social media posts, mocking affirmative action soldiers, questioning diversity promotions, suggesting that black service members had achieved rank through politics rather than merit. It showed in his text messages, conversations with friends joking about teaching jarheads their place, comments about Marines thinking they're better than everyone. A message sent 2 weeks before the Washington incident. These military guys in their nice cars act like they own everything. Someone needs to check them. It showed in his stop records. 11 civilian contacts in 16 weeks. All traffic stops. All targeting black drivers in affluent neighborhoods. 0 citations issued. 0 arrests made. Just stops. Demands for registration. Questions about vehicle ownership. The systematic harassment of people who had committed no crime. His father was a retired police officer. Thomas Brixton Sr. had spent 30 years on the force before retiring with full pension. When his son applied to Willow Creek PD despite the red flags, the boot camp washout, the psychological evaluation concerns, the social media presence that should have disqualified any candidate, the elder Brixton made phone calls. Kyle was hired despite documented concerns. Staffing shortages. Departmental pressure. A father's influence. The Marine Corps issued an official statement within 72 hours of the incident, condemning the treatment of Staff Sergeant Washington, demanding accountability, making clear that attacks on Marines in uniform were attacks on the institution itself. The FBI's investigation expanded beyond Brixton to examine department hiring practices. How had someone with his background been approved? Who had overridden the concerns? What systems had failed? Federal prosecutors treated the case as a priority. Civil rights violations under color of law. Assault on a service member. Deprivation of rights. Desecration of a memorial flag, a federal offense that carried its own enhanced penalties. The flag became the centerpiece of the prosecution's case. Not just fabric, not just symbolism. A memorial entrusted to a veteran, meant for a grieving mother, thrown in the dirt by an officer who saw it as evidence in a search that had no legal basis. Washington provided testimony over 2 days. He walked through everything. The funeral at Arlington, the drive home, the stop, the search, the moment he saw the flag hit the ground. I've survived ambushes. I've carried wounded Marines under fire. I've been hit by shrapnel and kept fighting. Nothing prepared me for watching that flag land in the dirt. The grand jury returned indictments within 4 weeks. Civil rights violations. Assault. Deprivation of rights. Desecration of a memorial flag. Trial was scheduled in federal court. Eastern District of Virginia, the same district where Washington had served, where he had built his career, where he had earned every ribbon on his chest. The evidence was overwhelming. The outcome was never in doubt. The federal courtroom filled to capacity every day of the trial. Marines in dress uniforms filled one section. Brothers who had served with Washington, recruits he had trained, officers who understood what the case represented. The Bodycam footage was played first. The jury watched Brixton approach the window. They watched him ask how Washington could afford a car like this. They watched him circle the vehicle claiming it doesn't match someone like you. They watched him throw a memorial flag on the ground during a search that found nothing. The audible gasp came when the flag landed in the dirt. Jurors who had remained impassive through the earlier footage visibly reacted, heads shaking, hands covering mouths. The neighbor's phone video provided the second angle. The prosecutor synced both recordings, showing the moment from 2 perspectives simultaneously. This is what Officer Brixton did to a memorial flag, the prosecutor said. Not just any flag. The flag that covered Corporal James Reeves' casket at Arlington National Cemetery. The flag entrusted to Staff Sergeant Washington to deliver to a grieving mother. Marie Reeves took the stand on the 3rd day. Jimmy's mother, the woman who had raised him in Cleveland, watched him become a Marine, received the first flag at his funeral. That flag was supposed to come to me. Her voice broke. Staff Sergeant Washington was bringing it to my home. And that officer threw it in the dirt like it was garbage. She looked at the jury. Watching that video killed my son a second time. The prosecution called character witnesses for Washington, Marines he had trained who credited him with making them warriors. A general who had served with him in Afghanistan and called him the finest NCO I've ever commanded. The two Marines whose lives he had saved in Helmand Province both testified about the ambush, about Washington carrying them to safety under fire, about the shrapnel wound he sustained while refusing to leave them behind. Washington testified in his dress blues, the same uniform he had worn that afternoon, the same medals that Brixton had scraped against the BMW. I've served this country for 13 years, 3 combat deployments. I've been shot at, blown up, and watched friends die. I never expected to be treated like a criminal in my own country by someone wearing a badge while I was wearing this uniform. He held up the flag, the same one Brixton had thrown, now preserved as evidence. This flag represents everything I've fought for. It represents Corporal Reeves' sacrifice. And Officer Brixton threw it in the dirt because he couldn't imagine that a black man in a nice car might have earned what he had. The defense attempted the standard strategy. Misunderstanding. Good faith. No way to know. The prosecutor's rebuttal was devastating. He couldn't have known. Staff Sergeant Washington was wearing Marine Corps dress blues. His medals were visible through the window. He identified himself as a staff sergeant. He explained he was coming from a funeral. Officer Brixton did not know. He didn't care. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Brixton showed no reaction as the verdicts were read. His father was not in the courtroom. His attorney had advised against it. Sentencing was scheduled for 6 weeks later. Washington remained in the gallery after the verdict. Marines surrounded him, hands on shoulders, murmured words of respect. Semper Fidelis, always faithful. The flag sat in an evidence bag at the prosecutor's table. It would be returned to Washington after sentencing, and he would finally deliver it to Marie Reeves. Sentencing drew national attention. The case had become a symbol, a decorated combat veteran humiliated in his own country by an officer who couldn't handle 3 weeks of boot camp. The judge reviewed the pre-sentencing report with visible contempt. The boot camp washout, the resentment, the social media posts, the pattern of stops targeting black drivers, the father's influence in hiring. Officer Brixton, you couldn't complete Marine Corps training. You couldn't handle the discipline required to serve. And when you encountered someone who had earned everything you couldn't achieve, you decided to humiliate him. She paused. You asked a Bronze Star recipient how he could afford his car. You told him he didn't match his neighborhood. You threw a memorial flag for a fallen Marine in the dirt. You did all of this while wearing a badge you never deserved. The sentence, 9 years federal prison. Enhanced for targeting a service member. Enhanced for flag desecration. Enhanced for the documented pattern of civil rights violations. Brixton was led from the courtroom in handcuffs. His 16-week career had cost him nearly a decade of freedom. His father, Thomas Brixton Sr., faced investigation for corrupt influence in hiring practices. His pension was suspended pending review. His reputation, 30 years of service, collapsed under the weight of what his phone calls had enabled. The police chief resigned before he could be forced out. 3 supervisors who had approved Brixton's application were terminated. The department entered a DOJ consent decree requiring federal oversight for 5 years. The city settled with Washington for $8.2 million within 4 months. He divided the money with purpose. $2 million established the Corporal James Reeves Memorial Scholarship Fund, providing education assistance for children of fallen Marines. The first scholarship would be awarded to Jimmy's nephew. $1 million went to veteran legal defense organizations, ensuring that service members facing discrimination had access to representation. The remaining funds went to his family. College savings for Darnell Jr. security for Keisha. The stability he had always wanted to provide. The neighbor who had recorded from his porch, Gregory Matthews, 63, retired accountant, was honored by the NAACP for his courage in documenting the incident. His video had provided the angle that showed the flag landing in the dirt. I saw a Marine being disrespected, Matthews said. I had to do something. Washington was promoted to gunnery sergeant 6 months after the incident. He continues serving as senior drill instructor at Quantico, training the next generation of Marines with even more determination. He uses his story in training now, tells recruits about dignity, about resilience, about representing the Corps even when the country fails to respect it. He testified before Congress on veteran discrimination, a closed session of the Armed Services Committee that resulted in recommendations for enhanced protections for service members facing police encounters. Kyle Brixton is currently serving his sentence at FCI Petersburg in Virginia. He will be eligible for release in 2033. His applications for appeal have been denied twice. His father has not visited. Darnell Washington still drives the same BMW X6. He still takes shortcuts through Willow Creek sometimes, not to make a point, but because it's the fastest route home. The memorial flag he retrieved from the dirt now hangs in Marie Reeves' living room in Cleveland. Framed, protected, a reminder of her son's sacrifice and the Marine who made sure it reached her despite everything. Washington was recently selected for Sergeant Major Academy, the highest enlisted professional education in the Marine Corps. When he completes it, he will be one step from the top of the enlisted ranks. 3 weeks washed Brixton out of boot camp. 13 years made Washington a legend. The uniform doesn't lie.
Okay. Ma'am, step away from the vehicle. Is this your car?
Yes, it's my car. I just finished my shift.
We got a report of a black female trying to break into vehicles in this lot.
Break into vehicles? I'm in scrubs, officer.
I need you to put your hands on the vehicle.
I just spent 12 hours saving lives in that ER.
12 hours. 2 trauma codes. 1 cardiac arrest. A multi-car accident with 4 critical patients. A 16-year-old boy who didn't survive despite 45 minutes of CPR. That's the shift Adrienne Baptiste had just finished when Officer Dale Perkins approached her in the hospital parking garage and demanded to know whose car she was unlocking. She was wearing scrubs. A stethoscope hung around her neck. Her hospital badge, Adrienne Baptiste, RN, Emergency Department, was clipped to her waist. None of it mattered to the 11-week rookie who saw a black woman with a nice Lexus and decided that was suspicious enough. He handcuffed her beside her own car, spilling her work bag across the concrete. Nursing awards, family photos of her twins, thank you cards from patients she had saved. The Bodycam captured everything. Her colleague's phone captured more. $14.8 million. The largest police misconduct verdict in state history for a non-fatal case. And a nurse who went back to saving lives after the officer who harassed her went to federal prison. Mercy General Hospital served as one of Georgia's busiest trauma centers. Level 1 designation. Helicopter pad on the roof. An emergency department that never stopped moving, where nurses measured time not in hours, but in codes called and lives hanging in the balance. Adrienne Baptiste had worked there for 12 years. Senior charge nurse in the ED. The one they called when the impossible cases came through the doors. Bachelor of Science in Nursing from Emory. Masters in Nursing Leadership from Georgia State. Certified Trauma Nurse. Certified Critical Care Nurse. Georgia Nurses Association Nurse of the Year, 2023. Single mother to 8-year-old twin daughters. 12-hour night shifts, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., because the differential pay helped cover dance lessons and school supplies. She had saved more lives than she could count. Performed CPR on a child for 45 minutes once, refusing to stop until the doctors arrived and the heart finally restarted. That child was now in 4th grade. This shift had been brutal even by Mercy General standards. A cardiac arrest at 9:47 p.m. Elderly man, widower, no family to notify when his heart gave out despite everything she threw at it. A multi-car accident at 1:15 a.m. For critical, 2 stable, 1 who coded twice before stabilizing. Then the teenager, 16 years old. Motorcycle accident on I-285. Too much internal damage. Too much blood loss. Too little time. She had held his hand for 30 minutes while they worked. When it became clear nothing would save him, she stayed anyway. His mother had screamed in the hallway, the sound that haunted every nurse who worked emergency medicine. Baptiste had been the one to walk out and tell her. By 7 a.m., she was running on fumes. Hand off to the day shift. Chart documentation. The mechanical process of ending a shift that had taken everything she had. Go home, Adri. Her colleague, Sarah Chun, squeezed her shoulder at the nursing station. You look like you need sleep for a week. Just need to get to my car without falling over. She walked the corridor she had walked thousands of times. Through the staff exit. Across the connector to the parking structure. The white Lexus RX 350 waited in her usual spot, 3rd level, near the stairwell. 3 years of overtime shifts had paid for that car. 12-hour nights stacked end to end. She had earned every mile. A security guard she didn't recognize stood near the garage entrance. New hire. She hadn't seen him before. Young. White. Watching her with an expression she recognized but had learned to ignore. She kept walking. The guard raised his radio. Unit 4 to dispatch. I've got a black female in the staff garage, 3rd level. Looks like she might be trying to break into a vehicle. Baptiste didn't hear the call. She was too tired to notice anything except the Lexus 20 feet ahead and the promise of her bed 30 minutes beyond that. She reached her car. She pulled out her keys. Behind her, a patrol car entered the garage. The cruiser stopped 15 feet from her Lexus. The door opened. A young officer stepped out, mid-20s, uniform crisp with the sheen of recent issue. His badge was in the 7800 series. Recent academy graduate. His hand moved to his belt as he approached. The Axon Body 2 on his chest activated with a soft beep. Timestamp, 7 hours 22 minutes and 41 seconds. Ma'am, step away from the vehicle. Baptiste turned. Her keys were in her hand. Her badge was clipped to her waist. Her stethoscope hung around her neck. Everything about her appearance screamed hospital employee finishing a shift. Is this your car? Yes, it's my car. I just finished my shift. She gestured vaguely toward the hospital entrance, visible through the garage's concrete pillars. The Mercy General sign glowed in the morning light. We got a report of a black female trying to break into vehicles in this lot. Baptiste's exhaustion flickered toward something else. The familiar weight of being questioned for existing. Break into vehicles? I'm in scrubs, officer. I work here. Anyone can buy scrubs online. The words landed with the casual dismissal of someone who had already decided what he was looking at. Officer Perkins, his nameplate was visible now, stepped closer. His hand remained near his belt. I need to see your license and registration. For what? I'm unlocking my own car. Ma'am, I'm conducting an investigation. License and registration. Investigation of what? A nurse walking to her car after a 12-hour shift? There was a report of break-ins in this garage. Was there? Or was there a report of a black woman near a nice car? Perkins' jaw tightened. The Bodycam captured the reaction, the flicker of irritation when the unspoken was spoken aloud. Are you going to cooperate or not? Baptiste looked at the camera on his chest, then at the garage security cameras positioned at intervals along the ceiling, then back at the officer who had decided her scrubs, her badge, her stethoscope, her exhaustion meant nothing. My license is in my bag. My registration is in the glove box. If I reach for either one, are you going to claim I'm making a threatening movement? Just show me the documents. She reached into her work bag slowly, deliberately, keeping her movements visible. Her license was in a side pocket. She had learned years ago to keep it accessible. She handed it over. Perkins examined it, then looked at the Lexus, then back at the license. Registration. She opened the driver's door, her door, to her car, and retrieved the registration from the glove compartment. She handed that over too. Perkins compared the documents. The name matched. The address matched. Every piece of information confirmed exactly what she had told him. His expression didn't change. This could be stolen. It's not stolen. It's mine. I've had it for 3 years. Nice car for a nurse. The words hung in the morning air. The Bodycam recorded them with perfect clarity. The garage cameras captured the scene from above. A woman in scrubs, badge visible, stethoscope around her neck, being questioned beside her own vehicle by an officer who couldn't imagine she had earned what she drove. Excuse me. I said nice car. For a nurse. I saved 3 lives tonight. I don't have time for this. Watch your attitude. Footsteps echoed from the stairwell. Another nurse emerged, Sarah Chun, who had been 30 seconds behind Baptiste leaving the building. Adri, what's going on? She saw the officer. She saw her colleague being questioned beside her car. That's Adri. She's our charge nurse. She's worked here for 12 years. Perkins turned. His expression hardened. Ma'am, mind your business. Sarah Chun didn't retreat. 12 years of working alongside Baptiste had built something beyond professional courtesy. She pulled out her phone. I'm documenting this. That woman is a registered nurse who just finished a 12-hour shift saving lives. What exactly are you investigating? I said mind your business. This doesn't concern you. She's my colleague. It concerns me. Perkins' attention shifted between the 2 women, the one he had stopped and the one now recording. His hand moved from his belt to hover near his radio. Put the phone away. No. I'm on hospital property. I'm a hospital employee. I have every right to record. Baptiste watched the exchange with the distant exhaustion of someone too tired to feel afraid. 12 hours of impossible decisions had drained whatever reserves of emotion might have fueled panic. Officer Perkins. She read his nameplate again, making sure the cameras caught it. You have my license. You have my registration. The documents match. My colleague has identified me. What else do you need? I need you to explain how a nurse affords a car like this. I need you to explain how that's relevant to your investigation. Ma'am, I worked 3 years of overtime shifts, 12 hours at a time. Nights, weekends, holidays. I missed my daughter's dance recitals. I missed birthday parties. I saved and saved until I could afford a reliable vehicle to get me to the job where I save people's lives. Her voice cracked slightly, not from weakness, from the accumulated weight of everything. The teenager who had died, the mother who had screamed, the cardiac arrest patient she couldn't bring back. And now this. I don't have to justify my car to you. I don't have to justify my presence in a parking garage where I've parked for 12 years. I don't have to justify anything except the care I give my patients. You're being uncooperative. I'm being accurate. There's a difference. Perkins looked at Sarah Chun, still recording. He looked at the badge clipped to Baptiste's waist, clearly visible, clearly legitimate. He looked at the registration in his hand that confirmed everything she had said. He should have handed back her documents. He should have apologized for the inconvenience. He should have walked away and called it a misunderstanding. He didn't. Step to the rear of the vehicle. Why? I'm going to run your plates. Make sure this car isn't stolen. You have my registration. It shows I'm the owner. Registrations can be forged. Officer, everything I've shown you is legitimate. Everything my colleague has told you is true. You're manufacturing reasons to detain me because you can't accept that a black woman might own a Lexus. That's quite an accusation. It's quite an obvious observation. Perkins' face flushed. The Bodycam captured it, the color rising, the jaw tightening, the moment when wounded pride overtook whatever remained of professional judgment. Put your hands on the vehicle. No, ma'am, I'm ordering you. You're ordering me to submit to detention without probable cause. I'm a nurse, not a lawyer, but I know that much. I've done nothing wrong. I've proven the car is mine. You have no legal basis to detain me. I'm making that determination. You're making a mistake. Sarah Chin's phone kept recording. Her voice came from behind the screen. His badge number is 7847. This is Mercy General Parking Garage. Wednesday, November 13th, 7:26 a.m. I told you to put that away. And I told you I'm documenting. Adri, don't let him touch you. But it was already too late. Perkins grabbed Baptiste's arm. The grip was aggressive, fingers digging into her bicep, yanking her away from the driver's door she had legally opened to retrieve her registration. The Bodycam captured the motion. Sarah Chin's phone captured a different angle. Hands on the vehicle. Now, I haven't done anything. You're being detained for uncooperative behavior during a lawful investigation. There is no lawful investigation. You stopped me for being black in a parking garage. Perkins spun her toward the Lexus. The momentum knocked her work bag from her shoulder. It hit the concrete and spilled open. The contents scattered across the garage floor. Her nursing awards, 2 framed certificates from Mercy General, recognizing years of service and patient care excellence. Her Georgia Nurses Association plaque from 2023. Family photos, her 8-year-old twins in matching dance costumes, grinning at the camera. A picture from their last birthday party, chocolate cake and pink balloons. Thank you cards from patients. Handwritten notes from families who had taken the time to say what she meant to them. You saved my father's life. Thank you for holding my hand. I'll never forget your kindness. All of it now on the concrete beside a white Lexus that belonged to her, while an officer who had been on the force for 11 weeks twisted her arms behind her back. The handcuffs clicked around her wrists. I'm a nurse. I work here. This is my car. You can explain that at the station. Explain what? That I walked to my parking spot after a 12-hour shift? That I unlocked my own vehicle with my own keys? Ma'am, you were uncooperative and confrontational. I was exhausted and accurate. Those aren't crimes. Sarah Chun had moved closer, phone still recording, her voice rising. What are you doing? She's a charge nurse. She's worked here for 12 years. Call the hospital. They'll confirm everything. Back up or you'll be next. For what? For witnessing. A door banged open at the far end of the garage. Hospital security, 2 officers in Mercy General uniforms, responding to something. Maybe the commotion. Maybe the radio call that had started all of this. They approached at a jog. The lead officer was Derek Odom, security chief. Black. 15 years with the hospital. He knew every employee who parked in this garage. He knew Adrian Baptiste. What the hell is happening here? Perkins turned, one hand still on Baptiste's arm, the other resting on his belt. Sir, step back. This is a police matter. Police matter? Odom looked at Baptiste, handcuffed against her own car, work bag contents scattered on the concrete, badge still visible at her waist. That's our senior charge nurse. She's been here 12 years. What exactly is the police matter? There was a report of someone breaking into vehicles. Breaking into vehicles? She's in scrubs. She has a hospital badge. Her car is registered in her name. Sir, I need you to step back. I'm not stepping anywhere. That woman just spent 12 hours saving lives in our ER. I watched her walk through the building 20 minutes ago. What report? Who called this in? Perkins hesitated. The Bodycam captured it. The moment when certainty began to crack. We received a call about a black female possibly breaking into a vehicle. A black female. Odom's voice went flat. That was the description? Black female. That's what was reported. She's wearing scrubs. She has a stethoscope around her neck. Her badge says emergency department. And you handcuffed her. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling hospital administration. And your supervisor. Don't move. Baptiste stood against her car, wrists bound, her life scattered across the concrete, while a security chief fought for her dignity, and an officer who had been on the job 11 weeks realized he had made a catastrophic mistake. The calls went out simultaneously. Odom to hospital administration. Sarah Chun to the nursing supervisor. Another security officer to police dispatch, requesting a supervisor at the scene. Baptiste remained handcuffed against her Lexus. Her wrists were already reddening. The metal too tight, applied with more force than any situation warranted. Uncuff her. Odom's voice carried command. Sir, she's being detained. For what? Owning a car? Having a job? Being tired after saving lives all night. She was uncooperative. She was answering your questions while you insulted her. That's not uncooperative. That's patient. More footsteps in the garage. A woman in business attire approached rapidly. Dr. Catherine Reeves, Mercy General's chief medical officer. She had been in the building early for a meeting when her phone buzzed. What is happening here? Officer Perkins detained Adrian Baptiste for walking to her car. Odom's summary was clinical. Damning. Reeves looked at the scene. The handcuffs. The scattered contents of Baptiste's bag. The award plaques lying on concrete. Adrian Baptiste is our senior charge nurse. She's been with this hospital for 12 years. She saved 3 lives last night. I saw the chart notes this morning. Ma'am, there was a report. I don't care what report you received. That woman is a hero to this hospital. Remove the handcuffs immediately. Perkins looked between the growing crowd of hospital staff. Security, administration, nurses emerging from the building, drawn by the commotion. His backup hadn't arrived. His certainty was dissolving. He removed the handcuffs. Baptiste brought her arms forward slowly. The welts were visible, red lines where the metal had bitten into her skin. She rubbed her wrists without speaking. Adri. Odom stepped forward. Are you hurt? She didn't answer the question. Instead, she looked at Perkins, directly, with the exhaustion of someone who had held a dying teenager's hand and watched officers handcuff her for it. I spent 12 hours in that ER. 2 trauma codes. A cardiac arrest. A 16-year-old boy who died while I held his hand because his mother couldn't reach him in time. Her voice cracked. I held him for 30 minutes. I talked to him even though he couldn't hear me anymore. I told his mother what happened while she screamed in my face because she needed someone to blame. She gestured to the contents of her bag, still scattered on the concrete. Then I walked to my car. My car. And this is how I end my shift. Perkins said nothing. His body cam recorded his silence. Sarah Chun was still filming. Her phone had captured the handcuffing, the release, the confrontation, a second angle that would corroborate everything the bodycam showed. A police supervisor's vehicle entered the garage. Sergeant Michael Torres stepped out, 15 years on the force, summoned by dispatch when the situation escalated. He approached with the measured pace of someone who sensed catastrophe. Officer Perkins. Report. Sarge, I responded to a call about a possible vehicle break-in. The subject was uncooperative. The subject is a registered nurse who works at this hospital. Torres looked at Baptiste, at her badge, at the welts on her wrists. Did you verify her identification? I saw her license and registration. Did they match? Silence. Did they match, officer? Yes. Then why was she handcuffed? Perkins had no answer. Torres turned to Baptiste. His expression carried something that looked like shame. Ma'am, on behalf of the department, I apologize. This should not have happened. No. Baptiste's voice had steadied. It shouldn't have. But it did. And your body cam recorded all of it. She looked at the camera on Perkins' chest. Then at Sarah Chen's phone. Then at the garage security cameras positioned overhead. I'm not letting this go. The hospital released a statement within 24 hours. Full support for Adrian Baptiste. Condemnation of the officer's conduct. Cooperation with any investigation. The bodycam footage was obtained by Baptiste's attorney within the week. Standard discovery protocol once the civil rights complaint was filed. Sarah Chen's phone video provided a second angle that corroborated everything. Both recordings went viral within days. 50 million views across platforms. The image of a nurse in scrubs being handcuffed beside her own car became the defining visual of police accountability discussions for months. But the footage only told part of the story. The investigation would reveal the rest. Officer Dale Perkins had graduated from the academy 11 weeks before the incident. His training file contained documented concerns that should have prevented him from ever wearing a badge. 3 complaints during academy training for aggressive behavior toward minority role players in scenario exercises. A failed implicit bias assessment. Results that were flagged by the evaluating psychologist and then ignored by supervisors who cited staffing shortages. Comments from training officers noting difficulty accepting correction and tendency to escalate rather than de-escalate. The department hired him anyway. They were understaffed. They needed bodies in uniforms. They decided that concerns about bias could be addressed through field experience. Digital forensics revealed more. Perkins' personal social media contained posts that would have disqualified any properly vetted candidate. Jokes about welfare nurses and diversity hires. Comments on news articles suggesting that black professionals had only gotten where they are because of quotas. Membership in online groups where officers shared strategies for stops that would be difficult to challenge. One post, made 4 months before the Baptiste incident, stood out. Love when they drive cars they can't afford. Easiest stops of the week. His stop records told the same story. 23 civilian contacts in 11 weeks. 19 involved black or Hispanic individuals. 0 arrests. 0 citations. Just stops. Demands for ID. Questions about vehicle ownership. The systematic harassment of minorities who had committed no crime. The security guard who had made the initial call was interviewed within days. His name was Kevin Marsh. 22 years old. 3 weeks on the job. New to Mercy General. Why did you call police? I saw her walking through the garage. She was looking at cars. She was walking to her car. I didn't know that. She was wearing scrubs and a hospital badge. I didn't notice. The federal civil trial lasted 6 days. The courtroom was packed. Nurses in scrubs who had taken time off to support their colleague. Journalists covering the case, civil rights advocates watching the proceedings. The bodycam footage was played first. 9 minutes of continuous recording. The jury watched Perkins approach. They watched him dismiss Baptiste's badge and scrubs. They watched him demand documentation for a car that was clearly hers. Nice car for a nurse. The prosecutor paused the video at that moment. Perkins' voice hung in the courtroom air. 4 words. That's what this case is about. An officer who looked at a registered nurse, a woman who had just saved 3 lives, and decided she couldn't possibly afford her own vehicle. Sarah Chen's phone video provided the second angle. The handcuffing, the bag spilling open, the awards and family photos scattering across concrete, while Baptiste protested her innocence. The parade of character witnesses began on the 3rd day. Dr. Reeves testified about Baptiste's service record. She's the nurse families ask for when they're facing the worst moments of their lives. Fellow nurses testified about her skill, her compassion, her willingness to take the cases others couldn't handle. Then Maria Gonzalez took the stand. She was the mother of the 16-year-old boy who had died the night of the incident. She had driven 3 hours to testify. I don't know Nurse Baptiste personally. I only met her once, the worst night of my life. Her voice broke. My son was dying. I couldn't be in the room. I couldn't hold his hand. But she did. She held my son's hand for 30 minutes. She talked to him. She made sure he wasn't alone. She looked at the jury. That woman held my son with more dignity than this officer showed her. She comforted a dying boy, and then she was treated like a criminal for walking to her car. The courtroom was silent. Baptiste's testimony came on the fourth day. She wore scrubs, not required, but a deliberate choice. A reminder of who she was and what she did. She walked through the shift, the trauma codes, the cardiac arrest, the teenager. I held his hand until the end. That's what nurses do. We stay with people when no one else can. She walked through the garage encounter, the demands for ID, the dismissal of her badge, the comment about her car. I've worked 12-hour shifts for 12 years. I've missed my daughter's recitals. I've missed birthday parties. I saved and saved to buy a reliable car that would get me to work and back. Officer Perkins looked at that car and decided I couldn't possibly have earned it. The defense attempted the standard strategy, misunderstanding, good faith response to a legitimate call. The prosecutor's rebuttal was surgical. The call described a black female possibly breaking into a vehicle. She was wearing scrubs. She had a badge. She had a stethoscope. She had just finished saving lives. Officer Perkins saw all of that and decided none of it mattered. She turned to the jury. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a choice. A choice to assume. A choice to dismiss. A choice to handcuff a nurse because she was black and had nice things. The jury deliberated for 5 hours. They returned with verdicts on every count. Liable on unlawful detention. Liable on assault. Liable on civil rights violations. Liable on intentional infliction of emotional distress. The damages phase followed immediately. Compensatory damages, $4.8 million. Punitive damages, $10 million. Total, $14.8 million. The largest police misconduct verdict in state history for a non-fatal case. The criminal case moved in parallel with the civil trial. Federal charges for deprivation of rights under color of law. The evidence was overwhelming. Bodycam footage, witness testimony, documented pattern of racial profiling. Perkins pleaded not guilty. His attorney argued good faith. The prosecutor presented his stop records. 23 contacts. 19 minorities. 0 legitimate outcomes. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing came 8 weeks later. The judge reviewed the pre-sentencing report, the failed evaluations, the ignored warnings, the social media posts that revealed exactly who Dale Perkins had always been. Officer Perkins, you had 11 weeks to learn what it means to wear a badge. Instead, you spent those 11 weeks proving every concern your evaluators raised. You profiled a nurse for walking to her car. You dismissed her badge, her scrubs, her stethoscope, every piece of evidence that she belonged exactly where she was. She paused. You handcuffed a woman who had just held a dying teenager's hand. You spilled her awards on concrete. You called her car suspicious because you couldn't imagine a black woman earning what she had. The sentence, 3 years federal prison. The maximum for the charges. Enhanced for the documented pattern of civil rights violations. Perkins was led from the courtroom in handcuffs, the same restraints he had applied to Baptiste in a parking garage 9 months earlier. The department faced its own reckoning. The police chief resigned before he could be forced out. 3 supervisors who had approved Perkins' hiring despite documented concerns were terminated. The department entered a DOJ consent decree requiring federal oversight for 5 years. Kevin Marsh, the security guard whose call had started everything, faced civil penalties. His assumption that a black woman in scrubs didn't belong had cost him his job and his reputation. Baptiste took 6 months leave after the verdict. Not from weakness, from necessity. The trial had required her to relive the worst night of her career, then the worst morning that followed. She needed time. Her daughters were 9 now. She spent the leave watching them dance, attending their recitals, being present in ways that 12-hour night shifts had made impossible. The settlement money arrived in phases. She kept $10.8 million for her family, college funds for the twins, retirement security, a new house in a neighborhood with good schools. The remaining $4 million established 2 funds. $3 million created the Healthcare Heroes Legal Defense Fund, providing free representation to medical workers facing discrimination. $1 million endowed Mercy General's nursing scholarship program, ensuring that future nurses wouldn't have to work 3 years of overtime to afford reliable transportation. She returned to work 8 months after the incident. The hospital had offered her administrative positions, less stress, regular hours, no more night shifts. She declined. "I'm an ER nurse. That's what I do." They promoted her to nursing director instead, supervising the department where she had spent 12 years saving lives. The hospital named the ER family waiting room in her honor, the Baptiste Family Room. A plaque on the wall told her story. Dale Perkins is currently serving his sentence at a federal prison camp in Alabama. He will be released in 18 months. His law enforcement certification has been permanently revoked. His attempts to appeal the civil verdict have been denied. Adrienne Baptiste still works at Mercy General. She still parks in the same garage, in the same spot, drives the same white Lexus she saved 3 years to buy. Some mornings, walking from her car to the hospital entrance, she thinks about the teenager whose hand she held, about his mother's screams, about the handcuffs that followed. Then she walks through the doors, puts on her badge, and goes back to saving lives. Because that's what nurses do. They stay with people when no one else can.
I already showed you my ID.
You fit the description of a shoplifter. Turn around, sir.
I paid for my groceries. You're making a mistake, officer.
I said turn around. Don't make this harder than it needs to be.
I'm a Navy SEAL. You don't want to do this.
I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. You're being detained.
15 minutes. That's how long it took for the Department of Defense to respond when Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reynolds didn't check in for a scheduled secure briefing. He was supposed to be at Naval Special Warfare Command by noon, a planning session for an operation that would remain classified for decades. Instead, he was face down on the floor of a Whole Foods in Virginia Beach, an officer's knee on his back, being detained for fitting the description of a shoplifter. The description was simple: blackmail. The groceries in his reusable bags were paid for. His receipt was in his pocket. His military ID was in his wallet. His sealed trident tattoo was visible on his forearm. None of it mattered to Officer Derek Sloan. But it mattered to the 2 men in suits who walked through the door 15 minutes later. DoD credentials, Pentagon authority, and the particular urgency that accompanies a missing special operator with active security clearance. The Bodycam captured Sloan's face when he realized what he had done. The investigation captured everything else. The Whole Foods on Independence Boulevard served the military families of Virginia Beach, a community built around Naval Station Norfolk and the Special Warfare Commands that operated from its facilities. Shopping carts filled with organic produce and protein moved past service members in civilian clothes, their fitness levels, and bearing the only indicators of their profession. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reynolds had 45 minutes before his briefing. Enough time to grab groceries for the week, drop them at his apartment, and make the drive to the compound. His girlfriend was flying in that evening. The refrigerator was empty. The errand was routine. 14 years Navy SEAL. 4 combat deployments. 2 to Afghanistan. 1 to Syria. 1 to a location that remained redacted in every document. Silver Star for actions during a firefight that had never appeared in any news report. 3 Bronze Stars. Navy Commendation Medal with Valor. The kind of service record that filled classified personnel files but never made headlines. Bud/S Class 287. Hell Week survivor. The trident tattoo on his right forearm, eagle, anchor, trident, pistol, marked him as one of approximately 2,500 active duty SEALs in the entire United States Navy. This morning, he wore a fitted black Under Armour shirt, khaki cargo pants, and tactical boots. Standard off-duty attire for operators who never fully shed the readiness that training had made instinctive. His reusable grocery bag sat in the cart, meal prep supplies, protein sources, the fuel that maintained the physical capability his job required. He was in the checkout line when Amanda Whitfield, a store employee restocking shelves near the front entrance, watched him approach the register. She saw a muscular black man with grocery bags. She saw someone who didn't match her expectation of the store's typical clientele. She saw something that made her uncomfortable. She found her manager. "There's a man at checkout who I think might be shoplifting. He has bags, but I didn't see him get a cart." The manager looked toward the registers. He saw Reynolds placing items on the conveyor belt, the same items visible in security footage being selected from shelves over the previous 20 minutes. He's checking out. He's paying. I just have a feeling. What feeling? I don't know. He just doesn't look right. The manager should have dismissed it. The cameras showed a customer shopping normally. The register would show a completed transaction. There was no basis for concern. Instead, he called the police non-emergency line. We might have a shoplifter at Whole Foods on Independence. Black male, athletic build, black shirt. Can you send someone to check it out? Officer Derek Sloan was 3 blocks away. 8 years on the Virginia Beach PD. A reputation that would become clear during the investigation that followed. He arrived at 11:38 a.m. Reynolds was walking toward the exit, receipt in hand, groceries bagged. Sloan intercepted him 10 feet from the door. He's checking out. He's paying. I just have a feeling. What feeling? I don't know. He just doesn't look right. The manager should have dismissed it. The cameras showed a customer shopping normally. The register would show a completed transaction. There was no basis for concern. Instead, he called the police non-emergency line. We might have a shoplifter at Whole Foods on Independence. Black male, athletic build, black shirt. Can you send someone to check it out? Officer Derek Sloan was 3 blocks away. 8 years on the Virginia Beach PD. A reputation that would become clear during the investigation that followed. He arrived at 11:38 a.m. Reynolds was walking toward the exit, receipt in hand, groceries bagged. Sloan intercepted him 10 feet from the door. Chapter 2. The description. 650 words. Sir, I need you to stop. Reynolds paused. His hands remained visible, holding the reusable bags, nothing concealed. The training was automatic. 14 years of operating in environments where sudden movements invited lethal responses. Is there a problem, officer? We received a report of shoplifting. I need to see your receipt. Reynolds set the bags down slowly. He reached into his back pocket, telegraphing the movement, keeping it visible, and produced the receipt. Here, everything's accounted for. Sloan took the receipt. His eyes moved across it briefly, then back to Reynolds. I'm going to need to see some ID. For what? You have the receipt. The items match. I need to verify your identity. Reynolds reached for his wallet. Same deliberate movement. Same visibility. He produced his military ID, the card that identified him as active duty Navy, his rank, his command. Sloan examined it. His expression didn't change. This doesn't prove you paid for these groceries. The receipt proves I paid for the groceries. The ID proves who I am. What else do you need? I need you to come with me to the security office. For what purpose? To verify your story. My story is that I bought groceries. The receipt is the verification. The store cameras will show me selecting every item and paying at the register. Sloan's partner had arrived. Officer Reina Martinez, 3 years on the force. Her Bodycam activated as she approached, capturing the scene from a wider angle. What's going on? Possible shoplifter. He's being uncooperative. Uncooperative. Reynolds' voice remained level, but the temperature had dropped. I've shown you my receipt. I've shown you my ID. I've explained exactly what happened. What part of that is uncooperative? Your attitude. My attitude is patient. My attitude is professional. My attitude is what keeps situations like this from escalating unnecessarily. Sloan stepped closer. His hand moved to rest on his holster, not drawing, but present. You fit the description of a shoplifter. What description? Black male. Athletic build. This location. Reynolds looked at Sloan. At Martinez. At the customers who had stopped to watch near the entrance. That's not a description. That's a demographic. Half the men at Naval Station Norfolk match that description. I don't make the rules. Actually, you do. You decide what constitutes reasonable suspicion. You decide whether to stop someone. You decide whether a receipt and a military ID are sufficient verification. And I've decided they're not. Then we have a problem. Because I have a briefing at noon that I cannot miss. Classified. Time sensitive. And you're detaining me for buying groceries. I don't care about your briefing. You should. The people waiting for me at that briefing care about national security. They care about operations that keep this country safe. And right now, you're preventing me from attending because I fit the description of being black in a grocery store. Sloan's face reddened. Martinez's Bodycam captured it. The flush of someone whose authority was being challenged by facts. I already showed you my ID. What exactly is the problem here? The problem is you fit the description of a shoplifter. Turn around. I paid for my groceries. You're making a mistake, officer. I said turn around. Now, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Reynolds looked directly into Sloan's Bodycam. I'm a Navy SEAL. You don't want to do this. Sloane's hand closed around his arm. I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. You're being detained. Reynolds didn't resist the grip. 14 years of training had taught him when to fight and when to wait. This wasn't a firefight. This was a grocery store with multiple cameras, 2 body cams, and witnesses throughout the checkout area. Composure was the weapon here. Documentation was the ammunition. For the record, I am Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reynolds, United States Navy. I am assigned to Naval Special Warfare Command. I have shown my military identification and my purchase receipt. I am being detained without probable cause. Shut up. I will not shut up. I'm documenting this encounter for the recording devices present. He raised his right arm slightly, not to strike, but to display. The sealed trident tattoo was clearly visible on his forearm. Eagle, anchor, trident, pistol. The emblem that fewer than 1% of those who attempt BUD/S training ever earn. You see this tattoo? This is a Navy SEAL trident. It's not something you can buy. It's not something you can fake. It represents the most demanding military training in the world. I've earned this through 14 years of service. Sloane glanced at the tattoo. His expression didn't change. Anyone can get a tattoo. Check my ID again. Naval Special Warfare Command. That's not a tattoo. That's official military documentation. I've seen fake military IDs before. You're looking at a real one. That's what everyone says. Martinez had positioned herself to the side, her body cam capturing both men in frame. Her expression carried something Sloane's didn't, uncertainty. The recognition that something was wrong with this encounter. Derek, maybe we should call the store manager. Verify with the cameras. I don't need cameras. I have a description and a suspect. The description was black male. That's not a description. That's... Stay out of this, Martinez. Reynolds looked at her body cam, at the doubt visible in her posture. Officer Martinez, for the record, your partner is detaining me based solely on my race. The description he cited contains no identifying information beyond skin color. I have provided documentation of my identity and my purchase. I am requesting that you contact my commanding officer at Naval Special Warfare Command to verify my status. Don't talk to her, Sloane interrupted. You talk to me. I'll talk to whoever is willing to listen to facts. You've demonstrated that's not you. Sloane's grip tightened on Reynolds' arm. You think you're smart? You think that military ID makes you special? I think that military ID represents 14 years of service to this country. I think it should warrant basic professional verification before you escalate a grocery store encounter into a federal incident. Federal incident? I'm active duty military with security clearance. Detaining me without cause creates jurisdictional complications you haven't considered. The only complication here is your mouth. My mouth is documenting your violations for the cameras that are going to be subpoenaed when this becomes a civil rights case. The customers near the entrance had multiplied. Phones were appearing. The particular tension of public confrontation drawing attention from every angle. Last chance, Sloane said. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. On what charge? Resisting. I haven't resisted anything. I'm standing still while you grip my arm. You're refusing to comply. I'm refusing to be handcuffed without legal cause. That's my constitutional right. Turn around. Reynolds looked at the cameras. At Martinez. At the crowd with their phones. I want it on record that I am not resisting. I am complying under duress with what I believe to be an unlawful detention. He turned slowly. Sloane grabbed his wrists and pushed. The takedown was aggressive and unnecessary. Reynolds had turned voluntarily. His hands were moving toward his back without resistance. Every camera in the store, body cams, security cameras, phones, captured a man complying with instructions. Sloane drove him forward anyway. Reynolds hit the floor face first. The impact was controlled. He turned his head at the last moment, absorbed the fall with his shoulder, protected his skull the way combatives' training had made instinctive. He had been thrown by men trying to kill him. This was violent, but survivable. His groceries scattered. The reusable bags split open. Protein bars and vegetables rolling across the polished floor of a Whole Foods entrance. Stay down. I am down. Sloane's knee pressed into his back, between the shoulder blades, pinning him to the tile. The position was uncomfortable, but not injurious. Reynolds had endured worse in training evolutions designed to simulate capture. Hands behind your back. They're behind my back. The handcuffs clicked around his wrists. Cold metal. The same sensation he had felt in SEER school, learning to resist interrogation, learning that captivity was survivable if you maintained composure. Composure. That was the weapon. The body cams were recording. The store cameras were recording. The phones held by witnesses were recording. Every second of this encounter was being documented from multiple angles. He would not give Sloan the reaction he was looking for. You have the right to remain silent. I'm not being charged with a crime. You have no probable cause. I have a report of shoplifting. You have a report of a black man in a grocery store. That's not shoplifting. That's shopping. Anything you say can and will. I invoke my right to remain silent except to document this encounter. I am Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reynolds. I am being detained without probable cause after providing proof of purchase and military identification. A crowd had formed. 20 people. 30. The particular horror of watching someone being arrested in a public space, the uncertainty about whether to intervene, the phones recording from every angle. An older white man in a Naval Academy sweatshirt pushed forward. What the hell is going on here? That man showed you his ID. Sir, step back. I saw the whole thing. He paid for those groceries. He showed you the receipt. I won't tell you again. He's got a trident tattoo, for God's sake. You're arresting a Navy SEAL. Martinez stepped between the man and her partner. Sir, please, let us handle this. Handle what? A wrongful arrest? This is going to be on every news channel by tonight. Reynolds lay on the floor, cheek against cold tile, watching the scene from ground level. The witnesses. The phones. The man in the Navy sweatshirt who had recognized what Sloan refused to see. Officer Martinez. His voice was calm, measured. I have a classified briefing at Naval Special Warfare Command at noon. I was expected to check in 15 minutes ago. By now, my absence has been flagged. People will be looking for me. Martinez looked at her watch. At Reynolds. At her partner. Derek, maybe we should. We're not doing anything until he's processed. Processed for what? Shoplifting. He has a receipt. Receipts can be faked. The automatic doors opened. The Virginia Beach morning light spilled across the entrance. 2 men walked through. They wore suits. Dark. Expensive. The particular cut that indicated government service at a level above local law enforcement. Their badges were already in their hands. Credentials that made Martinez take a step backward and Sloan's knee lift slightly from Reynolds' back. Department of Defense. Officer, step away from that man. Sloan looked up. At the credentials. At the faces of men who had driven very fast to reach this location. Who the hell are you? We're the people who are going to explain to you exactly who you just put on the ground. The 2 men approached with the deliberate calm of professionals who had handled situations far more volatile than a grocery store confrontation. Their credentials remained visible. Department of Defense, Office of the Inspector General. I'm Agent Harrison. This is Agent Delgado. We're here for Chief Petty Officer Reynolds. Sloan remained crouched over Reynolds, though his knee had lifted from the operator's back. His face carried the confusion of someone whose certainty was encountering information it couldn't process. How do you know his name? Because we've been tracking his location for the past 20 minutes. He missed a scheduled check-in. When operators with his clearance level go dark, we investigate. Harrison looked down at Reynolds, still handcuffed, still on the floor, surrounded by scattered groceries. Chief, are you injured? Negative. Just detained. On what charge? Shoplifting. Allegedly. Harrison turned to Sloan. His expression carried nothing that could be called friendly. Shoplifting. You're detaining a Navy SEAL for shoplifting. We received a report. Did you verify the report? I was in the process. Did you check whether he paid for his groceries? Silence. Did you look at his receipt? He showed me a receipt, but did you verify his military ID? Anyone can get. Did you contact Naval Special Warfare Command to confirm his identity? Sloan had no answer. Delgado had already moved to Reynolds' side. He knelt, examined the handcuffs, then looked at Martinez. Officer keys. Ah, yes. Here. She handed them over. Delgado unlocked the cuffs with practiced efficiency. Chief, can you stand? Reynolds rose slowly. He rolled his shoulders, the controlled movement of someone assessing physical status. No injury. No damage beyond the indignity. I'm operational. Your briefing has been postponed. Commander Reyes sends his regards and wants you to know the situation is being handled. Handled how? Jurisdictionally. Harrison turned back to Sloan. Officer, This man is active duty military assigned to a special warfare command. His security clearance is above anything you've ever encountered. When he goes missing, people at the Pentagon notice. When he goes missing in a grocery store parking lot, those people ask questions. I didn't know. You didn't ask. He offered identification. You refused to verify. He offered his receipt. You dismissed it. He identified himself as a Navy SEAL. You said. Harrison paused, consulting a phone that had clearly been receiving updates. I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. The Bodycam footage had already been flagged. Someone at DoD was monitoring in real time. This is now a federal matter. Your Bodycam footage is being preserved. The store's security footage is being subpoenaed. Every phone recording in this crowd is potential evidence. Sloan's face had gone pale. The color change was visible on Martinez's Bodycam. Still recording, still capturing every moment of the encounter's reversal. I was just responding to a call. You were responding to a description that consisted of black male. That's not a description. That's racial profiling. And you applied it to one of the most decorated special operators on the East Coast. Reynolds had gathered his scattered groceries. The protein bars, the vegetables, the mundane supplies that had somehow become evidence in a federal civil rights investigation. Agent Harrison, I need to make a phone call. To Commander Reyes? To my attorney. Harrison nodded. Understood. We'll secure the scene. He turned to Sloan one final time. Officer, you're going to want to contact your union representative and your department's legal counsel, and possibly a very good defense attorney. For what? For what comes next? The Virginia Beach Police Department received notification within the hour. Not from the officers on scene, from the Pentagon. Captain William Forsyth was in his office when the call came through. The caller identified himself as representing the Department of Defense Office of Inspector General. The subject was an incident at Whole Foods involving one of their officers and an active-duty special warfare operator. What kind of incident? The kind that generates federal civil rights investigations. Forsyth pulled up the CAD system. Call for service. Possible shoplifter. Officers dispatched. No arrest logged. No transport. Just a status change. Cleared by DoD. Cleared by DoD? Chief Petty Officer Reynolds is assigned to Naval Special Warfare Command. He has security clearance at a level I can't discuss on this line. When he missed a scheduled briefing, his location was flagged. We dispatched agents. They found him face down on a grocery store floor in handcuffs. For shoplifting? For being black in a Whole Foods. The receipt was in his pocket. His military ID was in his wallet. Your officer dismissed both and proceeded to detain him. Forsyth closed his eyes. 8 years of building community relations. Implicit bias training. De-escalation protocols. All of it undone by one officer's assumptions. I need to see the Bodycam footage. You'll have it within the hour. So will the FBI. So will the U.S. Attorney's Office. FBI. Federal civil rights violations. Assault on military personnel. When you detain a special operator without cause and put him on the ground, you've created federal jurisdiction. Forsyth had already pulled Sloan's personnel file on his second monitor. The complaint's visible. The pattern emerging. I'll handle it internally. You'll handle it however the federal investigation allows. Officer Sloan is to be relieved of duty pending the outcome. His badge and weapon collected. He is not to discuss this incident with anyone except legal counsel. Understood. Captain, I want to be clear about something. Chief Petty Officer Reynolds has spent 14 years conducting operations that protect this country. He has a Silver Star, 3 Bronze Stars, and a security clearance that puts him in rooms with people whose names you'll never know. Your officer put him face down on a floor because someone called in black male as a description. I understand the severity. I don't think you do. Not yet. But you will. The call ended. Forsyth stared at his screen. At Sloan's file. At the 8 prior complaints that had been dismissed, minimized, explained away. This one wouldn't be explained away. The Bodycam footage arrived 47 minutes later. Forsyth watched it twice. The first time with growing disbelief. The second time with the cold assessment of someone calculating liability. I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. That line would end Sloan's career. That line would end up in federal court filings. That line would become the defining quote of a trial that would draw national attention. He picked up his phone. This is Captain Forsyth. I need to speak with Chief Patterson immediately. He's in a meeting. Get him out of it. We have a situation. 30 minutes later, Officer Derek Sloan was relieved of duty. His badge surrendered. His weapon collected. His patrol car keys returned to the motor pool. He was escorted from the building by internal affairs officers who had already received the federal preservation order for all electronic communications, personnel records, and body-worn camera footage related to his employment. "This is ridiculous," Sloan said as he walked to his personal vehicle. "It was a shoplifting call. It was a Navy SEAL," the IA investigator responded. "And the Pentagon wants to know why he was on your floor." Sloan had no answer. He wouldn't find one. The investigation expanded within days. FBI Civil Rights Division, DOD Inspector General, Virginia Beach Internal Affairs. 3 parallel inquiries examining the same incident from different angles. The Bodycam footage was the foundation, but the investigation would reveal the architecture beneath it. Officer Derek Sloan had accumulated 19 complaints in 8 years. Excessive force, discriminatory conduct, failure to follow procedure. 14 had been dismissed. 5 had resulted in written reprimands, paper that went into his file and changed nothing about his behavior. The pattern was visible in the data. His stop records showed consistent targeting of black individuals in retail environments, shopping centers, grocery stores, electronics retailers, anywhere that a black person with nice things might attract the kind of attention that Sloan was happy to provide. 12 prior shoplifting detentions, 0 convictions, 0 charges filed. 12 black men and women stopped, questioned, sometimes detained, all released when verification proved what they had told him from the start. His social media accounts filled in the picture. Posts shared without comment from accounts that trafficked in racial grievance. Comments on news articles celebrating aggressive policing. Membership in online groups where officers discussed which stores had the best calls, meaning locations where certain demographics could be stopped with minimal questions. Text messages to fellow officers revealed more. Jokes about retail reconnaissance. Comments about keeping the nice stores safe. A message sent 2 days before the Reynolds incident. Got another one at Target yesterday. These people think they can shop anywhere now. The store employee who had made the initial report was interviewed separately. Amanda Whitfield, 23, restocking shelves near the entrance. "Why did you report Mr. Reynolds?" "He had bags. I didn't see him get a card." "Did you see him take anything without paying?" "No." "Did you see any suspicious behavior?" "No." "What made you think he was shoplifting?" Silence. "Ms. Whitfield, I just had a feeling." "A feeling about what?" "He didn't look like our typical customer." "What does your typical customer look like?" She had no answer that wouldn't confirm what the investigation already knew. The store manager who had called police was terminated by Whole Foods corporate within the week. His decision to contact law enforcement, based on an employee's feeling with no supporting evidence, violated company policy and had exposed the chain to civil liability. The federal grand jury convened 6 weeks after the incident. The charges presented: deprivation of rights under color of law, assault, false imprisonment, civil rights violations. The evidence was comprehensive. The bodycam footage, the store security cameras, the phone recordings from witnesses, the DOD tracking records proving Reynolds' location and the timeline of federal response. Reynolds provided testimony over 2 days. He described the stop, the dismissal of his credentials, the astronaut comment, the takedown, the minutes on the floor while an officer's knee pressed into his back. "I've operated in hostile territory for 14 years. I've been in firefights, ambushes, situations where the enemy was trying to kill me. I've never felt as disrespected as I did on that grocery store floor." The grand jury returned indictments within hours. The trial was scheduled for federal court. The federal courtroom in Norfolk drew national attention. The case had become a symbol, a Navy SEAL with a silver star, detained and thrown to the ground for buying groceries because he fit the description of being black. Reynolds testified in his dress, white uniform. 14 years of service displayed across his chest: silver star, bronze stars with valor, Navy Commendation Medal, combat deployment ribbons. The trident pin above them all. On December 3rd, I stopped at Whole Foods to buy groceries before a briefing at Naval Special Warfare Command. The briefing was classified. The timeline was important. I had 45 minutes. He described the stop, the demand for ID, the dismissal of his receipt. The moment Sloan called his credentials into question, I showed him my military ID. He said anyone could get a fake one. I showed him my receipt. He He said receipts could be forged. I showed him my Trident tattoo. He said anyone could get a tattoo. The Bodycam footage was played for the jury. They watched Sloan approach. They watched him dismiss every piece of evidence Reynolds offered. They watched the astronaut comment. I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. You're being detained. They watched the takedown. A compliant man driven to the floor. A trained operator who didn't resist because he knew the cameras were his allies. Chief Reynolds, how did it feel to be on that floor? I've been on floors before. I've been captured in training exercises. I've been in situations where enemy combatants had the advantage. This was different. Different how? Because this was my country. This was my grocery store. This was an American police officer treating me like an enemy combatant because of my skin color. The DoD agents testified about the tracking system, the missed briefing, the response timeline. 15 minutes from flagged absence to on-scene arrival. When operators with Chief Reynolds' clearance go dark, we investigate immediately. The work he does, the work I can't discuss in this courtroom, is too important to risk. Sloan's attorney attempted the standard defense. Good faith response to a legitimate call. No way to know. Following procedure. The prosecutor's rebuttal was surgical. Following procedure? The procedure for a shoplifting report is to verify the complaint. Officer Sloan never spoke to store management. Never reviewed security footage. Never checked whether Mr. Reynolds had paid. He saw a black man and decided that was enough. She turned to the jury. I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. That's what Officer Sloan said to a Silver Star recipient. A man who has spent 14 years protecting this country in ways we can't discuss. That's not procedure. That's prejudice. The jury deliberated for 5 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sloan stood motionless as the verdicts were read. His attorney placed a hand on his shoulder. His family in the gallery wept. The judge scheduled sentencing for 6 weeks later. The defendant has demonstrated a pattern of conduct that betrays every principle of law enforcement. He used his badge to target citizens based on race. He did so to a decorated military hero in a grocery store over bags of groceries that were paid for. The consequences will reflect the severity of his choices. The courtroom was silent as the judge reviewed the pre-sentencing materials. 8 years of complaints. 19 documented incidents. A pattern visible to anyone who looked. Officer Sloan, you were entrusted with a badge to protect all citizens equally. Instead, you used that badge to harass, demean, and assault a man who has given 14 years of his life to protecting this nation. She paused. When Chief Reynolds showed you his military identification, you dismissed it. When he showed you his receipt, you ignored it. When he identified himself as a Navy SEAL, you said you didn't care if he was an astronaut. That contempt for his service, for his dignity, for the evidence directly in front of you, represents everything that is wrong with policing in America. The sentence, 18 years federal prison. Enhanced for targeting a military service member. Enhanced for the documented pattern of civil rights violations. Enhanced for the assault that occurred after Reynolds had clearly complied with instructions. Sloan was led from the courtroom in handcuffs, the same restraints he had applied to Reynolds in a grocery store 4 months earlier. The civil settlement followed within 3 months. Virginia Beach agreed to pay $12.8 million rather than face a trial the city knew it would lose. Reynolds distributed the money with purpose. $4 million to the Naval Special Warfare Foundation, supporting the families of SEALs killed or wounded in service. $3 million to establish scholarships for minority students pursuing military careers, ensuring that the next generation of operators wouldn't face the assumptions he had faced. $2 million to civil rights organizations focused on police accountability, funding the systemic change that individual cases couldn't achieve. The remaining funds secured his family's future, his parents' retirement, his siblings' children's education, the stability that service should have always guaranteed. The Virginia Beach Police Department entered a DOJ consent decree. 5 years of federal oversight. Mandatory implicit bias training. Reformed complaint review processes. The systems that had allowed 19 complaints to go unaddressed would finally be dismantled. Chief Patterson resigned before he could be forced out. 3 supervisors who had dismissed prior complaints were demoted. Officer Martinez, who had questioned her partner, who had shown doubt, who had ultimately handed over the handcuff keys, was promoted to lead the department's new community relations unit. She had done what Sloan refused to do. She had listened. The The store manager who had called police was never rehired in retail management. Amanda Whitfield, the employee whose feeling had started it all, left the workforce entirely. The attention too intense, the accountability too unfamiliar. Reynolds returned to duty 3 weeks after the incident. The classified briefing he had missed was rescheduled. The operation it supported was executed successfully. The details remained redacted. He was promoted to Senior Chief Petty Officer 6 months later. He continues to serve at Naval Special Warfare Command. His work remains classified. His service continues. He still shops at the Whole Foods on Independence Boulevard. Same store. Same checkout lines. Same groceries. The manager who called police is gone. The employee who reported him is gone. The officer who detained him is serving 18 years in federal prison. The cameras remain. The body cams. The security footage. The phones that appear whenever something seems wrong. Reynolds knows they're there. He counted on them that morning. Knew that composure was the weapon, that documentation was the ammunition, that the system would work if he gave it evidence it couldn't ignore. He was right. 18 years. $12.8 million. One grocery store receipt that proved what should never have been questioned. Some descriptions fit perfectly. Derek Sloan fit the description of an officer who saw race before evidence, assumption before fact, prejudice before duty. That description will follow him for the rest of his life. The trident on Reynolds' forearm will last just as long. Only one of them earned what they carry.
Is there a problem, officer?
You need to stand up out of that chair. Now.
Stand up? Sir, is this a joke? I'm paralyzed.
Yeah, I've heard that before. People fake disabilities all the time.
But I'm not faking it.
You're getting out of this chair one way or another. Don't make it harder.
The 911 call lasted 43 seconds. A woman's voice. Certain. Offended. There's a man pretending to be disabled in the Kroger parking lot. He probably stole that wheelchair. He's using a fake handicap placard. The dispatcher asked for clarification. What made her think he was faking? I just know, Karen Whitmore said. People like him do this all the time. People like him. Sergeant First Class Michael Travers. 18 years Army. 5 combat deployments. Purple Heart. Bronze Star with Valor. Paralyzed from the waist down after an IED explosion in Helmand Province. An explosion he survived because he threw his body over a younger soldier and absorbed the blast himself. Officer Tyler Hendricks responded to that call. He demanded Travers stand up. When Travers explained he couldn't, hadn't walked in 5 years, spine severed, legs atrophied, Hendricks grabbed him by the arm and pulled him from his wheelchair onto the parking lot asphalt. 43 seconds of suspicion, 20 years federal prison, and a caller who learned that people like him sometimes carry medals for the sacrifices she couldn't imagine. The Kroger on Preston Road served the suburban sprawl of Plano, Texas. Families loading minivans, retirees comparing produce, the ordinary commerce of a Saturday afternoon. Michael Travers had been shopping here for 3 years, ever since he and Janelle bought the wheelchair-accessible home 4 miles away. The motorized chair navigated the aisles with practiced efficiency. 14 months at Walter Reed had taught him how to adapt, how to reach high shelves with the grabber tool, how to balance grocery bags on the back of the chair, how to ignore the stares from people who couldn't reconcile a 42-year-old man with legs that didn't work. Sergeant First Class, retired. 18 years U.S. Army. 75th Ranger Regiment. 3 deployments to Afghanistan, 2 to Iraq. The kind of service record that filled a shadow box on his living room wall. The IED had detonated on a dirt road outside Marja in 2019. Travers had seen the pressure plate a fraction of a second before Specialist Rodriguez stepped toward it. He had thrown himself backward, shielding the younger soldier with his body. The blast killed Specialist Chun and Private Williams instantly. It severed Travers' spine at T10. Rodriguez walked away without a scratch. Purple Heart. Bronze Star with Valor. Silver Star nomination pending. 14 months at Walter Reed learning to live in a chair. Medically retired with full honors in 2021. Now he volunteered at the VA, helping newly paralyzed veterans adjust. Spoke at high schools and corporate events about resilience. Raised his daughter and son with Janelle, the physical therapist who had helped him learn to transfer from bed to chair and had married him 6 months after his discharge. This Saturday, he had dropped Maya at soccer practice, sent Janelle and Marcus to a birthday party, and headed to Kroger for the weekly run. Bread, milk, the snacks his kids demanded, the vegetables Janelle insisted on. He was loading bags onto his chair near the accessible van when Karen Whitmore watched from her Lexus 3 spaces away. She saw a black man in a wheelchair. She saw a handicapped placard. She saw something that offended her sense of who belonged in spaces she considered hers. She dialed 911. There's a man pretending to be disabled in the Kroger parking lot. Officer Tyler Hendricks was dispatched at 2:21 p.m. 6 years on the Plano PD, 14 prior complaints in his personnel file. A pattern that would emerge later, but was already visible to anyone who looked. He arrived at 2:23 p.m. His partner, Officer Reina Mendez, followed in a separate vehicle. Her body cam activated as she stepped out. Axon Body 2. Timestamp 14 hours 23 minutes and 41 seconds. Travers was securing the last grocery bag when he noticed the officers approaching. 2 uniforms. One walking with purpose. One hanging back. Is there a problem, officer? Hendricks stopped 3 feet from the wheelchair. His posture was aggressive. Weight forward, hand resting on his belt. Mendez's body cam captured him from behind, framing Travers in the center of the shot. You need to stand up out of that chair. Now. Travers looked up. His expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. Stand up? Sir, is this a joke? I'm paralyzed. Yeah, I've heard that before. People fake disabilities all the time. The words landed in the afternoon air. Mendez's body cam recorded them clearly. So did Hendricks' own camera, though from a different angle. I'm not faking anything. I'm a disabled veteran. I was paralyzed by an IED in Afghanistan in 2019. Sure you were. Travers gestured to his legs, visible beneath the black joggers, atrophied from 5 years without use. The muscle wasting was obvious to anyone who looked. The unnatural stillness. The way they sat in the chair without the micro-adjustments that working legs constantly make. Look at my legs. They haven't moved in 5 years. My spine was severed at T10. I spent 14 months at Walter Reed. Walter Reed. Hendricks' tone carried skepticism the body cam captured clearly. Anyone can say that. I have documentation. My VA disability card is in my wallet. My military ID. I don't need to see your paperwork. Then what do you need? I need you to get out of that chair and prove you can't walk. Travers' jaw tightened. Mendez's camera caught the micro-expression. The moment disbelief gave way to something harder. Officer, I cannot get out of this chair and walk. That's what paralysis means. My legs don't work. They will never work again. That's what everyone says until they get caught. Caught doing what? Shopping at Kroger? Faking a disability? Using a stolen wheelchair? Fraudulent handicap placard? None of those things are happening. This is my wheelchair, provided by the Wounded Warrior Project after my injury. That placard was issued by the state of Texas DMV. I have the paperwork in my van. Hendricks stepped closer. His hand moved from his belt to the armrest of Travers' wheelchair. You're getting out of this chair one way or another. Don't make it harder. For the record, Travers' voice carried the calm of someone who had faced situations far more dangerous than this. I am a paralyzed veteran. I am unable to stand or walk. Any attempt to remove me from this wheelchair will cause injury. I am documenting this statement for any recording devices present. He looked directly at Mendez's body cam, then at the Kroger security camera mounted on a light pole 20 feet away, then at a woman with a phone raised near the store entrance. There are at least 3 cameras recording this encounter. I've identified myself as disabled. I've offered documentation. You have no legal basis to physically remove me from a medical device. I have a 911 call saying you're faking. A 911 call isn't proof. My legs are proof. My medical records are proof. My service history is proof. Mendez spoke for the first time, quietly, directed at her partner. Tyler, maybe we should just check his documents. Hendricks didn't turn around. I've been doing this for 6 years. I know a faker when I see one. He grabbed the armrest of the wheelchair. Last chance. Get up, or I'm pulling you out. Travers reached slowly toward his chest. The purple heart pin was visible on his hoodie, the distinctive purple ribbon, the gold heart with Washington's profile. This pin was presented to me at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center by a 2-star general. It represents a wound received in combat that resulted in my permanent disability. Hendricks glanced at it. His expression didn't change. Anyone can buy those online. I've seen the scam. People get sympathy and free parking. This isn't a scam. This is my life. Then prove it. I'm trying to prove it. You won't let me. Travers reached into the pocket on the side of his wheelchair, slowly, keeping his movements visible for the cameras. I'm reaching for my wallet. Inside is my VA disability card, my military ID, and my Texas driver's license showing this address. He produced the wallet. He opened it. 3 cards visible in plastic sleeves. VA disability card. 100% service-connected disability. Paralysis, lower extremities. He held it up. Hendricks barely looked. Military ID. Michael A. Travers. Sergeant First Class. Retired. Another card. Another dismissal. Driver's license. This address is 4 miles from here. I've lived here for 3 years. The staff inside that Kroger know me. The pharmacist fills my prescriptions. The manager helped me reach a top shelf last month. Anyone can have fake IDs. These aren't fake. They're issued by the federal government and the state of Texas. I've seen better fakes. Mendez had moved to a position where her body cam captured both men. Travers in his wheelchair, documentation in hand, and Hendricks standing over him with his hands still on the armrest. Tyler. Her voice was quiet but urgent. His legs aren't moving. Look at them. They haven't shifted once since we got here. That's called acting. That's not how paralysis works. You can't fake muscle atrophy. Stay out of this, Mendez. She stepped back. Her body cam kept recording. Travers looked at Hendricks with an expression that had faced Taliban fighters and IED craters, and the news that 2 of his brothers hadn't survived the blast. Officer, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to hear it. On March 14, 2019, an improvised explosive device detonated beneath my squad in Helmand Province. I saw the pressure plate before one of my soldiers stepped on it. I threw myself between him and the blast. The explosion killed Specialist David Chun and Private First Class Marcus Williams. It severed my spinal cord. I will never walk again. He held up the Purple Heart pin. This represents that moment. This represents their sacrifice. This represents everything I lost so that a 20-year-old soldier named Rodriguez could go home to his family. He set the pin on his lap. If you think I would fake this, fake the injury that killed my friends and ended my career, then you don't understand anything about service, or sacrifice, or what it means to wear a uniform. Hendricks' hand tightened on the armrest. I've heard enough. He grabbed Travers' arm with his other hand. You're coming out of that chair. I'm warning you. And I'm done listening. He yanked. Travers' body came out of the wheelchair sideways. His arm, gripped by Hendricks, pulled his torso forward while his legs, dead weight, unresponsive, failed to follow in any coordinated way. He hit the asphalt. Mendez's body cam captured the fall, the sound of impact, the way his legs crumpled beneath him at angles that working limbs would never allow. The Purple Heart pin bouncing across the pavement, coming to rest 5 feet away. His grocery bag scattered. Bread, milk, the snacks his kids had requested. All of it spreading across the handicapped parking space. Now stand up. Hendricks stood over him. The body cam captured his posture. Aggressive, certain, still refusing to see what was directly in front of him. Quit playing. Get up. Travers lay face down on the hot asphalt. His arms pushed against the ground, the only part of his body that still responded to his commands. His legs remained exactly where they had fallen. Twisted. Immobile. I can't stand. His voice was strained, not from acting, but from the position, from the heat of the pavement, from the pain radiating through a spine that had never fully healed. My spine is severed. I haven't walked in 5 years. I said get up. I can't. Screams from the parking lot. Bystanders who had stopped to watch, who had raised their phones when they saw an officer confronting a man in a wheelchair. What are you doing? A man's voice. Running footsteps. He's in a wheelchair. What's wrong with you? Another voice. Female. Horrified. Oh my God. Oh my God. Mendez rushed forward. Her body cam captured her movement toward Travers, her hands reaching to support him. Tyler, stop. Look at his legs. He's not faking. She knelt beside Travers. Her camera now pointed at the ground, at his twisted lower body, at legs that showed years of atrophy in every visible line. Sir, don't try to move. I'm calling an ambulance. My back. Travers' voice was tight. The IED damaged. There's hardware in my spine. Don't move. We're getting help. She keyed her radio. Dispatch, this is Officer Mendez. I need EMS at Kroger on Preston Road. We have an injured person in the parking lot. Possible spinal involvement. Send them now. Hendricks stood motionless. The bystander footage, captured from multiple angles by phones throughout the parking lot, showed his face as comprehension finally arrived. The legs weren't moving because they couldn't move. The man wasn't getting up because getting up had never been possible. The wheelchair wasn't stolen. The placard wasn't fake. The Purple Heart wasn't purchased online. Everything Travers had told him was true. An older man pushed through the gathering crowd. White hair, Vietnam veteran cap. He knelt beside Travers and took his hand. "I got you, brother. I got you." His voice cracked. "You're not alone. We're here." Travers lay on the asphalt, the Texas sun beating down, surrounded by strangers who had seen what an officer had refused to see. "My daughter," his voice was barely audible. "She has a soccer game. I was supposed to pick her up. Someone will call your family. Just stay still." "My wife. She's at a birthday party with my son. We'll find them. Don't worry about anything right now." The Vietnam veteran looked up at Hendricks with an expression that 50 years of memory had earned. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Hendricks didn't answer. His body cam recorded his silence. The crowd had grown to 30 people by the time the ambulance arrived. Phones remained raised. Voices overlapped. Anger, disbelief, the particular outrage that comes from witnessing cruelty that should have been impossible. Mendez stayed with Travers, her body positioned to shade him from the sun, her voice steady as she monitored his condition. "Sir, can you feel this?" She touched his hand. "Yes." "Can you move your fingers?" He moved them. "Can you feel anything below your waist?" "No. I haven't felt anything below my waist since 2019. "Okay. The paramedics are almost here. Just keep breathing." Hendricks had retreated to a position near his patrol car. His body cam continued recording, capturing the crowd, the phones, the man lying on the asphalt in a gray army hoodie. A woman approached him, mid-30s, scrubs visible beneath a light jacket. She worked at the medical office across the street. "I'm a nurse." "What happened?" "Ma'am, please step back. I can see what happened. You pulled a man out of a wheelchair." "What?" "There was a complaint." "A complaint about what?" "Being disabled in public." "Ma'am, I've worked with paralyzed patients for 8 years. I can see his legs from here. That's not acting. That's atrophy. That's what happens when muscles don't work for years." She walked past him toward Travers. "Sir, I'm a registered nurse. Can I help?" His spine, Mendez began. "I heard. Previous injury. We need to stabilize him before any movement." The ambulance arrived at 2:31 p.m. Paramedics approached with a backboard, their movements practiced and efficient. "Sir, we're going to need to move you very carefully. Can you tell us about your spinal injury?" T10 complete. Hardware at T8 through T12. 14 surgeries at Walter Reed. The paramedic's expression flickered, the recognition of a catastrophic injury described with clinical precision. "We're going to log roll you onto the board. Keep your arms across your chest." They worked as a team. Mendez helping. The nurse from across the street assisting. The Vietnam veteran stepping back, but staying close. Travers was secured to the backboard and lifted onto the stretcher. His wheelchair sat empty beside his van, the grocery bags still scattered, his Purple Heart pin still lying on the asphalt. The Vietnam veteran picked up the pin. He examined it, the same medal he had earned in a different war, a different jungle, a different explosion. He walked to the stretcher and pressed it into Travers' hand. "Don't lose this, brother. You earned it." "Thank you. What's your name?" "Michael. Michael Travers. Sergeant First Class, retired." "I'm Harold. Harold Washington. Sergeant, 1st Infantry Division. 1968. Semper Fi is an army, but brothers are brothers." The paramedics began moving the stretcher toward the ambulance. Mendez walked alongside. "Sir, I'm sorry. I tried to stop him. I know you did. This shouldn't have happened." "No, it shouldn't have." She looked at Hendricks, still standing near his patrol car, still silent, still being recorded by every phone in the parking lot. "He's going to answer for this. I'll make sure of it." Travers closed his eyes. "My wife. Someone needs to call my wife. I'll handle it." "What's her name?" "Janelle. The number is on my medical alert bracelet." Mendez found the bracelet on his wrist. She copied the number. "I'll call her right now. Tell her I'm okay. Tell her I'm sorry I'm going to miss Maya's soccer game. I'll tell her." The ambulance doors closed. The siren activated, and Michael Travers was transported to the hospital. The second time in his life an explosion had put him on a stretcher. Janelle Travers arrived at 2:47 p.m. Someone from the crowd, she never learned who, had also called the Kroger manager, who had called the number on Travers' pharmacy account. She pulled into the parking lot in her Honda Pilot, Marcus still strapped in his car seat in the back, confused about why they had left the birthday party early. The ambulance was gone. The crowd remained. The police cars remained. The wheelchair remained. Empty, sitting beside the accessible van, a visual accusation. She saw Mendez first, then Hendricks, then the scattered groceries, then the empty chair. Where's my husband? She was running before Mendez could respond. Ma'am, Mrs. Travers. Where is he? What happened? Mendez intercepted her before she could reach the scene. He's been transported to Medical City Plano. He's conscious and stable. Why? What did you do? Mendez's body cam captured her face. Terror, fury, the particular anguish of someone who had already watched her husband survive one catastrophe and couldn't understand why he was facing another. There was an incident. Officer Hendricks. Janelle saw him, standing near his patrol car. Silent. She moved toward him with a speed that Mendez couldn't intercept. What did you do to him? Ma'am, please calm down. Calm down. You pulled my husband out of his wheelchair? He's paralyzed. He was paralyzed saving another soldier's life. There was a complaint. A complaint? Someone complained about a disabled veteran shopping for groceries. Ma'am, he's a war hero. He has a Purple Heart. He spent 14 months at Walter Reed learning to live in that chair. Harold Washington, the Vietnam veteran who had stayed, stepped forward. Ma'am, I saw everything. Your husband identified himself. He showed his PIN. He offered documentation. The officer refused to listen. He what? He pulled him out of the chair. Your husband hit the ground. His legs. Harold couldn't finish. Janelle turned back to Hendricks. Her voice had dropped from a scream to something quieter. Something worse. My husband shielded a younger soldier with his body when an IED exploded. He absorbed the blast that would have killed them both. 2 of his friends died 10 feet away. And you pulled him out of his wheelchair because someone called 911. Hendricks said nothing. A supervisor's vehicle pulled into the lot. Lieutenant Catherine Ross, 15 years on the force, summoned when the scope of the incident became clear. She assessed the scene in seconds. The empty wheelchair. The scattered groceries. The woman confronting her officer. The crowd with phones still raised. Officer Hendricks. Step away from the civilian. Lieutenant, I was responding to a call. Step away. Now. She approached Janelle with the deference that the situation required. Ma'am, I'm Lieutenant Ross. I'm going to need a full account of what happened here. And I'm going to need to secure all evidence. Evidence of what? Of whatever my officer did. Starting with his body cam. She turned to Hendricks. Your badge and weapon. Now. Lieutenant. That's an order. You're relieved of duty pending investigation. The crowd watched as Hendricks surrendered his badge. His weapon. His authority. Karen Whitmore, the woman who had made the 911 call, was still in the parking lot, standing near her Lexus, watching the aftermath of her 43 seconds of certainty. Ross noticed her. Ma'am, are you the one who called this in? Yes, I thought. Stay where you are. I'll need your statement. Janelle looked at the empty wheelchair. At the Purple Heart pin Harold was still holding. At the groceries scattered across the pavement. I need to get to the hospital. I'll have an officer escort you. And ma'am, Ross's voice softened. I'm sorry. This should never have happened. The bodycam footage was secured within the hour. Both officers' recordings. Kroger's security cameras. Phone videos from at least 7 bystanders. The investigation that followed would prove what the footage suggested. This wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. Officer Tyler Hendricks had accumulated 14 complaints in 6 years. Excessive force. Discriminatory conduct. Failure to follow procedure. 12 had been dismissed through departmental review. 2 had resulted in brief suspensions, 3 days each, served without fanfare. 3 of those complaints involved disabled individuals. In 2021, he had accused a man with cerebral palsy of faking his condition during a traffic stop. In 2022, he had demanded a woman with MS get out of her mobility scooter to prove she couldn't walk. In 2023, he had detained a veteran with prosthetic legs, claiming the prosthetics looked suspicious. Each complaint had been dismissed. Insufficient evidence. Officer's account differed. Pattern not recognized. His social media accounts filled in the picture. Posts mocking fake cripples and welfare warriors. Comments on news articles about disability fraud claiming half of them are scammers. Membership in online groups where users shared videos of people caught faking disabilities, most of which showed individuals with invisible conditions being harassed for using accommodations they legitimately needed. Text messages to fellow officers revealed more. Jokes about playing wheelchair inspector. Comments about certain neighborhoods having more fakers than real ones. A message sent 3 days before the Travers incident. Got another one today. These people think they can park anywhere with a stolen placard. The 911 call from Karen Whitmore was examined separately. Dispatch records showed no basis for her report. She had admitted to the operator that she hadn't witnessed any actual crime, just a feeling that the man didn't belong. Her call history revealed a pattern of her own. 6 911 calls in 3 years. A black family suspiciously moving into a house. A Hispanic gardener possibly casing homes. A teenager in a hoodie who didn't look right. None had resulted in any law enforcement action. All had been filed and forgotten. Until now. The FBI Civil Rights Division opened an investigation within 72 hours. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Texas was notified. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Section flagged the case for potential federal charges. The Bodycam footage leaked within a week. 50 million views in the first 3 days. The image of a paralyzed veteran lying on hot asphalt while an officer demanded he quit playing became the defining visual of disability discrimination in law enforcement. Veterans organizations responded with coordinated outrage. The VFW, the American Legion, the Wounded Warrior Project, the organization that had provided Travers' wheelchair, disabled American veterans. Each issued statements condemning the incident and demanding accountability. The U.S. Army issued its own statement, confirming Travers' service record and decorations. Sergeant First Class Michael Travers served with distinction for 18 years, including 5 combat deployments. His injuries were sustained in the line of duty while protecting a fellow soldier. The treatment he received in that parking lot was a disgrace to every veteran who has sacrificed for this nation. Travers was released from Medical City Plano after 2 days. Additional scans showed no new damage to his spinal hardware. The fall had been traumatic but not catastrophic. He returned home to find his mailbox overflowing with letters. Fellow veterans. Strangers who had seen the video. People who wanted him to know that what happened wasn't right. The federal indictment came 8 weeks later. Civil rights violations. Assault on a disabled person. Deprivation of rights under color of law. Karen Whitmore was charged separately, filing a false police report. The trial was scheduled for federal court. The federal courtroom in Dallas filled to capacity every day. Veterans in unit caps and service organization jackets. Disability advocates. Journalists covering a case that had become national news. Travers testified in his Army dress uniform. 18 years of service displayed across his chest. Bronze Star with Valor, Purple Heart, Army Commendation Medal, combat patches, the insignia of the 75th Ranger Regiment. On March 14, 2019, I was leading a patrol outside Marja, Afghanistan. I saw an IED pressure plate a fraction of a second before Specialist Rodriguez stepped on it. I threw myself between him and the blast. He paused. Specialist Chun and Private Williams were behind me. They died instantly. My spinal cord was severed. Rodriguez walked away. The prosecutor displayed the Bodycam footage. The jury watched Hendricks demand that Travers stand. They watched him dismiss the Purple Heart as something anyone can buy online. They watched him grab the wheelchair and pull. They watched Travers hit the ground. They watched his legs crumple in positions that proved everything Hendricks had refused to believe. I've been shot at in 3 countries, Travers continued. I've been hit by shrapnel, stabbed during hand-to-hand combat, and watched friends die. Nothing prepared me for lying helpless on that asphalt while a police officer accused me of pretending. The soldiers Travers had saved testified next. Specialist Rodriguez, now a sergeant himself, broke down describing the moment Travers threw himself into the blast. He saved my life. He gave up his legs to save my life. And that officer treated him like a criminal for shopping at Kroger. The doctor from Walter Reed testified about Travers' injuries. The severed spinal cord. The 14 surgeries. The medical impossibility of faking paralysis of that magnitude. Muscle atrophy of the type visible in Mr. Travers' legs takes years to develop. It cannot be simulated. It cannot be faked. Any officer with basic observational training should have recognized it immediately. Hendricks' defense argued procedure. He was responding to a 911 call. He had reason to investigate. He couldn't have known. The prosecutor's rebuttal was surgical. He couldn't have known? Mr. Travers told him. He showed him his legs. He showed him his Purple Heart. He offered his VA card, his military ID, his medical records. Officer Hendricks didn't want to know. He had already decided. The bodycam footage was played again. The jury watched Hendricks' face as he dismissed each piece of evidence. This looks fake. Anyone can buy those online. I don't care what paperwork you have. Karen Whitmore testified under subpoena. Her 43-second call was played for the jury. People like him do this all the time. What did you mean by people like him? The prosecutor asked. Silence. Mrs. Whitmore? I just meant people who. People who what? She had no answer the jury would accept. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Officer Hendricks. Civil rights violations. Assault on a disabled person. Deprivation of rights under color of law. Karen Whitmore, in a separate proceeding, was found guilty of filing a false police report. The judge scheduled sentencing for 6 weeks later.
Uncovering the truth is more important now than ever. Our goal is to hold power to account by letting the evidence speak for itself. The records don't lie. Thanks for watching and being part of this journey.